All right, and we are live. How's everybody doing today? Hold on, I go to adjust my chair real fast. Ah, okay, what's going on, guys? We got a lot to talk about today. Before we get into it, let me just retweet my live stream real quick on Twitter, and then we're gonna hop into it. We got a lot to talk about today. The map is moving very, very quick. We got just a lot to get into, so we're gonna get right into it. If you guys want to find more of my work, you can do so by going to my Telegram or Twitter and following me there. You'll get constant live updates on both of those websites. If you want to support my work and if you want access to more content, you can go support me on Patreon. You can also join as a free member on Patreon and also get access to my demonetized series where I go over combat footage and stuff like that. All of those links can be found in the description on YouTube. Thank you guys so much for those of you who support me, those of you who are here watching me and everything like that. It is just good to be here. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right. Take you over to the map because we got some map updates to go over. Obviously, as you can tell, the title of today's stream is Massive Retreat. We are seeing some massive retreats in and around the Pokrovsk and New York salients. So we're going to just go ahead and take a look at that. But we will start up here in the Kursk front. So today on the Kursk front, these updates are old. The yellow here is sort of gray zone-ish, partial Ukrainian control. And this area might be a little gracious over here for Ukrainian control, but overall, this map matches deep state and Syriac maps and all of the other mappings. I had somebody on Twitter today say that my map was coping and that I'm not giving Ukraine enough space up here, but my map almost exactly matches deep state's map. So whatever, it doesn't make any sense. But this small settlement right here of Olgovka has been recaptured by the Russians. It was in the gray zone. We got confirmation today that it has been fully recaptured by the Russians. So my map is almost perfect in this region. Over here, we can see the newest update. This is the Seam River that the Ukrainians have destroyed one or two bridges across. As you can see, this is just a small little patch of Kursk right here that's divided by this river. So the Ukrainians took out the bridges and the Russians just retreated out of it. The Ukrainians do not occupy this space. It is just in the gray zone. All right, let me do this so you guys can see a little bit better. Right there. Okay. All right. Moving over to the Kharkov region, there are no updates in the Kharkov region. Just continued fighting in this area. Nothing really major going on. Sometimes the Ukrainians are taking runs at some border checkpoints here, but not a ton going on in this region right now. Moving over to the Kupiansk front, we have no updates along this front, no updates along the Seversk front, and no updates around the Chasiv Yar front. All right, let's actually get into the bulk of the updates. So some major developments happening around New York and Toretsk right now. If you guys look here, you can see that both of the tactical high grounds inside of Zelezny here and Pivnichi have both been captured. This is going to allow the Russians to have a good scouting recon point, firing point to control Toretsk from. So these are very important. I will take us over to the topographical map in just a second to look at the situation now and look at the front line. Remember, I told you guys about last week that this is what the front line was going to look like this week. I said that it's going to level out around Nelipivka, with New York being entirely captured today. This is the newest update, is that New York has been completely captured, as well as the entirety of the defense line, which I had already mentioned it had been captured. So here's that defense line. It had already been captured, but now the Ukrainians retreated from this reservoir region and the electrical substation into Nelipivka and back over here into Toretsk. So This whole front is developing very quickly. I expect that we will start to see some combat operations in this region now, just because of how much this salient has developed. The Russians are probably going to want to close this and to begin putting pressure on the 0504 highway right here that runs up into Konstantinivka. So sort of like my presentation now, what I thought the Russians were going to go for, because I didn't think the Russians were going to be able to head-on attack Toretsk like they did. I thought that the Russians were going to do more of a flanking operation like we've seen with Bakhmut and Avdiivka, get around the flanks, and then Toretsk ends up collapsing once the salient gets too tight. It didn't end up happening like that. It sort of happened like the later part of Avdiivka, where the Russians were able to break through the defenses doing a tunnel operation into New York and some other stuff just to penetrate these defense lines, got through. This was a bulwark right here, and the Russians just breezed through it comparatively to how long Avdiivka took. So a lot is happening in this region, a lot of movement, but now officially we're looking just directly at the Battle of Toretsk now. All of this has been captured. New York, Zilizny, Privnichi, and Druzhba will all be fully captured here in the coming days, and we're looking at the beginning of the Battle of Toretsk. Let me take you over to the topographical map real fast, and I will show you guys what I am talking about here. All right. Always go and look at the topographical maps, guys. It is the best resource for understanding what the Russians are trying to do. Okay, so here's Toretsk. Here's New York. New York has been captured. New York is on the low ground. You can see that the Russians have captured all of the high ground in the region, and now have captured the final two high points overlooking all of Toretsk. You can see that they are up at 900 to 1,000 feet above sea level here, comparatively to the highest places in Toretsk that are 600, 700 feet. And there's probably some high-rise buildings in here that give them a little bit of elevation as well. But the two highest points in the region now are under Russian control. The highest point in the region, like the highest ridge line that comes out through Privnichi, through Shumi and Druzhba, has all been captured by the Russians, and the Russians have captured the high ground up here. Now what you're looking at as you're looking down into the Toretsk salient is the Russians are going to be looking down from almost every single direction into this lowland, into these valleys right here. And it's going to be incredibly difficult for the Ukrainians to supply Toretsk. It's going to be a costly defense. And I have a feeling that Toretsk is going to fall. Toretsk is going to be, I don't know if it's going to be the first one, because there's a lot of cities that are coming into this territory where the Ukrainians are soon not going to be able to defend cities like they did Bakhmut, Avdiivka, New York, like the slow, sluggish battles, just because the reserve availability isn't there anymore. So Toretsk very well could be the first battle of this conflict where a city just kind of is captured. It just kind of goes away, right? Especially because Toretsk is behind the defense line, so it's not as built up as New York or Privnichi or Druzhba or any of those areas. Okay. Let's go back over to the map and move on to the Pokrovsk section. All right, so pretty big movements here, guys. This is a lot of territory captured. We're looking at about one square mile, and then 6 square miles on this, so about 12 square kilometers right in here. And then down here we're looking at a lot more movement. So just comparatively, I always like to compare it to what's happening in Kursk. We haven't seen any movement in the Kursk region for the last couple of days from the Ukrainians. The situation has seemed to stabilize for the Russians, and this situation is starting to get out of control for the Ukrainians. So just in terms of the progress being made, the Russians are making much more impactful progress in this region than the Ukrainians are doing in Kursk right now. Nothing is being threatened in Kursk. Kornevo is not being threatened, which would be a big target. The NPP is nowhere close to being threatened. I saw somebody today talking about the NPP getting captured. I'm like, what kind of delusional world are you guys living in, where you think the Ukrainians are going to be able to push through another 20 kilometers of, open territory here? Let's give them the benefit of the doubt and say that the max extent of their gray zone is like up here somewhere. They still have to go 20 miles. So 40 kilometers is what you're looking at there. That's ridiculous. There's no way that the Ukrainians have the manpower or equipment resources to do that. The Russians have rotated. The movement has stopped. They have no momentum. This is practically dead in the water right now. This Kursk operation is dead in the water. And one way you know that it's actually dead in the water is that the Ukrainians are deciding to now blow bridges, right? If Ukrainians wanted to blow bridges and prevent the Russians from coming in and defending, they would have done that day one, right? The Ukrainians blew the bridges on like day 12 or 13 and started striking the bridges on day 10 because it was very obvious that the Ukrainians had achieved the maximum surprise initiative, attack that they possibly could, and gained as much territory as they could. And then once the Russians responded, you understand you're not going any further, right? And the Ukrainians know this, so now they're striking bridges, trying to cut off the Russians and secure whatever they possibly can in the region. You don't blow bridges that you plan on crossing, right? And then the bridges got blown after the Ukrainians realized they couldn't cross them. Okay. Moving down to the Pokrovsk section now. So we have the large retreat from this pocket, this Novoselivka-Persha bridgehead right here. This retreat is massive because basically it means that this entire line is now compromised. The Russians are at the door, the Russians are behind the door, and the Russians are in the backyard as well. So we are looking at a massive, massive retreat from this salient. And it is a salient too, because you can see that the Russians have progressed into this defense line and are getting very, very close to cutting the last major line of logistics into this town that doesn't have to come down through Hrinki, which is a massive detour right around all of this back up into here. It makes this area untenable for the Ukrainians. So the Russian progress here is vital. And now we're going to see a massive Ukrainian withdrawal from here. And we should see something like this in the coming days. And you can really start to see how much territory the Russians are going to be gaining here. So we'll just make it, we'll go orange. There you go. So you can really see what this salient is starting to become. It's looking really, really bad. I mean, it's getting very deep into the Ukrainian backline here. Pokrovsk is now being directly threatened. Basically, it is being hit with glide bombs and artillery. It's sounding like Novohorivka is going to just be abandoned because the Russians have secured this Terekon and Kuridi Yar. I actually don't know if they fully have control over this yet. I have seen mixed reports. I have given it to them and I'll fix it if it changes. I've seen some people say it's right here and I've seen some people say it's past this. So I just left it the way I initially read the report. If I see a geolocation or something changes, I'll update that when it happens. But yeah, so a very, very large retreat is going to happen here. And then once this happens, once this retreat occurs, the Ukrainians are going to be looking at another massive retreat in this pocket as the Russians continue to push down, right? And then they will just push all the way back, basically down to Kharkov here, which is going to be massive, massive, massive for this entire southern flank. And again, I do believe we are going to see an offensive on Ugledar very soon. If you guys go and watch my episode 86, I posted it in the Telegram yesterday. Go watch it in 2x speed if you don't want to listen to my unbearable voice. But if you go and you watch through it, about 4 months ago, I made some general predictions about what I thought was going to happen. And particularly on the New York Toretsk salient and the Pokrovsk salient, I have been incredibly accurate. Down here, it's getting closer to being accurate. My timeline was a little bit off for this. I thought that this was going to happen a little bit sooner than reaching this road. but they put a lot more investment into this area, and I did not expect a Kharkov incursion to also occur, which took some time. So um, the Russians are getting there. It is late summer, which I had predicted that Ugledar and Pokrovsk were going to be the objectives by fall. So reaching Pokrovsk by fall and then capturing Ugledar and this entire southern region by fall was my goal. Like that was my prediction for what the Russians had planned, and yeah, that has almost come perfectly accurate. We're still months away from fall. The Russians are very, very, very close to Pokrovsk. They're advancing every day in this direction, as we can see here. I'm going to delete this, but the Russians are advancing every day, and it's just going to be this is just going to turn into one massive collapse. And I know, and again, I know people have been saying this for a long time, but the four the four most prominent people I think that I pay attention to in this information space for information are all saying the same general thing, and they're not all pro-Russian. One is a pro-Ukrainian, and two or three are pro-Russians that are mappers and neutral sources and stuff like that. But everybody's who I trust and value their opinion and respect are basically saying the same thing. You know, the stopwatch is running, the clock is on. The Ukrainians are running out of time. They do not have resources. The stories coming out from the Ukrainian units in this region are abysmal. It's just nightmarish what these battles are sounding like for the Ukrainians. The casualties they're taking here are tremendous, and they don't have the reserve rotation because of this little forest incursion here that has achieved absolutely nothing. It hasn't even forced a Russian troop rotation out of the east. All of the Ukrainian units in the east are still saying that the Russians haven't decreased their assaults, haven't decreased the number of bombs, the number of artillery shells. Nothing has changed. So really, you know, nothing. This has done nothing. This incursion has done nothing of what it was supposed to do. It did not pull reserves. The biggest claim I've seen is that the Ukrainians have increased their exchange fund by capturing Russian conscripts, which is fine, and Russian civilians. That's fine, but I've seen probably close to about 100 Ukrainian AFU captured at least. We saw 24 the other day. You know, there are a lot of Ukrainians getting captured, so there's not really this like there's no real advantage that I'm seeing from the Ukrainians doing this other than the asymmetrical warfare and the PR aspect for a 2-week time period. It's starting to die off now. Articles are starting to come out about how you know this Kursk operation is a strategic disaster or strategic blunder for Ukraine, and these are coming out from Western sources. So it's becoming mainstream. I told you guys 2 weeks ago that this wasn't going to accomplish anything, and 2 weeks ago we didn't even know what the commitment size was. Now we know that the commitment was much larger. We've seen tons of high-level assets getting taken out, multiple HIMARS. We did see that one of the Ukrainians posted a picture of an inflatable HIMARS M270 in the Kursk region. So there is a chance that if you don't see a secondary on one of the HIMARS videos, I think one of the HIMARS videos we saw didn't actually end up burning. That one could have possibly been a decoy, but we've still seen 3 HIMARS destroyed at least. We've seen multiple air defense systems destroyed since the Kursk operation began. 2 Patriot batteries have been hit, not in the Sumy region, but just in totality. The losses that the Ukrainians are sustaining in the Kursk operation are not benefiting them for what they're achieving. And the Ukrainians are sustaining much, much higher casualties. They are on the offensive. And this sort of battle is a high casualty style battle because of how fluid the lines are, how close contact the battles are. The groups are small that are fighting each other, but there's ambushes. The casualties are very, very high here. And remember that the Russians have air superiority in this region, right? They drop bombs on whoever they want. They strike with missiles whoever they want. Helicopters are firing ATGMs at whatever they want. So it's really just there's no solid benefit to this Kursk operation that has been shown. Again, I'm waiting for the real objective to be seen. Are the Ukrainians just going to try to hold this? Because again, the Ukrainians have the manpower issue, right? The Ukrainians are struggling to, even maintain lines in the east, and they open up a new salient that's going to be a massive resource drain. And now they're either going to retreat out of it, which means it was all pointless, and they got what 400 Russian captured, and they're mostly conscripts, or Ukraine stays and continues investing into this lost cause. Again, it's just another trap that the Ukrainians put themselves into. It's very short-term thinking. Success right now so that I can at least delay the failure later. It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. And by the way, I'm not demeaning this operation. The Ukrainians are in a very difficult situation. This operation was very successful for them. It got their name back in the headlines. It embarrasses Russia, which again, I've talked about this multiple times. Embarrassment is it's like that's an emotion. Like embarrassment is not it's not a real thing. Embarrassment goes away the second the war is over. Nobody's going to remember this. And I've said this multiple times. In fact, people will probably remember this as the point in the war where the Ukrainians made such a strategic mistake because they were almost to the point where they might have been able to negotiate their way out of this, right? That it was like their last chance. I made a post that the best deal that Ukraine was going to get, the best possible deal, was the one that Putin just offered. 4 oblasts, NATO neutrality, sanctions relief. I know the West isn't going to be able to do that. Whatever. I don't think that negotiation is real, but that was the best option Ukraine was going to get. Now Ukraine is going to get whatever the Russians want. That's how this is going to end. It has now become a war. This is no longer an SMO. And I haven't thought it's an SMO for a very long time. But for the Russians, there is no negotiations. They consider the leadership disposable now. It's a changed battle, right? The Kursk operation has fundamentally changed the course of this conflict. It will only end with one result now. So the Ukraine. Sorry. The Ukrainians are going to I don't know what the Ukrainians even do now, because what are their options? Are they going to pull out of here? Is that what the goal is? Because they're not advancing anymore. And I'm seeing a lot of coping in the chat from the people on Twitter. The Ukrainians are not advancing in this region anymore. They're trying to. They're fighting in this area, but they're not. The Russians are here. The Ukrainians are not going to break out of this little area. They do not have the available manpower resources to throw extra men into this and continue fighting. It has been 2 weeks that they kind of blew their load, metaphorically. Like, they don't have anything left to invest. And if they have anything, right, and they invest it here, they're going to be just dealing with nothing over here. And there's going to be a massive collapse over here. And if this collapses, this does not matter, right? If the East collapses here, this incursion does not matter at all. It literally doesn't matter. The Ukrainians won't even be able to sustain it if this starts collapsing, because they're going to have to redirect forces to protect the river line, right? And I mean serious collapsing, not just like the Russians get into Pokrovsk. No, we're talking about the Ukrainians running out of everything that they need to fight, including ammunition, manpower, everything. And especially in the east, we're hearing that the Russians are enjoying almost a 10-to-1 advantage in firepower now, because so much has been diverted to Kursk and so little is getting out to the east. I've seen some Ukrainian units talking about firing 3 or 4 shells a day. That's their expenditure limit, which is ridiculous. That's horrible, right? relying heavily on drones and stuff like that. So this could turn into a massive rout in this whole region, like very, very quickly, especially because you can see that the Russians are almost through all of the defense lines. And these defense lines are nothing compared to these ones. So all of the defense lines that were outside of Avdiivka were so much stronger than these. These were hastily built and are obviously not holding up the same. You can see bum, 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 bum. And they're not holding up the same for a couple reasons. No ammunition, no manpower, and poorly constructed. So it's looking really bad, and we're reaching a serious breaking point. And I'm just going to keep saying it because when it happens, everything that I've been saying for the past like 5 or 6 months has been happening almost exactly. So I'm just going to keep saying what I'm saying, and I'm going to stick to my guns and just kind of hold out and watch the world burn, because this is going to become a major issue for the AFU very, very quickly. And once this becomes an issue, everything's going to become an issue. It's all going to start domino affecting, right? One logistics hub is taken out, everywhere suffers, especially when you're already having issues with logistics. So it's a very, very complicated situation now. But we knew what this was going to be. We knew it 2 weeks ago. I told you guys 2 weeks ago. I made tweets about it where I said the pro-Ukrainian crowd is really going to enjoy the next 2 weeks of distraction, right? And then once the distraction is over and the reality starts hitting, it's over. Okay, that is it for the map updates today, guys. Thank you so much. Update on Kursk. I'm late to the party. What is aim? No aim. It's very confusing. They don't seem to have a lot of direction up there right now. They had direction for those first couple of days, and then once it got stalled and bogged down, they just didn't have anywhere to go. What will Russia's response to Kursk be? Gloves off. No, I think the Russian response will be exactly what it has been. It's going to be a continuation of the war, less territory for Ukraine. Again, guys, the red line stuff that's all Western talking points. The Russians restate mutually assured destruction because it's the only threat that really should work, but it isn't working for the West. They do this quite frequently, and everybody's like, oh, the Russians are making nuclear threats. Well, yeah, because their nuclear doctrine is being breached, right, by Ukraine and by the West. So they have the right legally to use them if they want. And so they're going to state that. And it's this thing that is very often misconstrued. They're like, oh, Russia's threatening with nukes. No, they're doing exactly what a state with a nuclear deterrence is supposed to do. But besides that, the gloves are already off. They're already dropping 3, kg bombs. It doesn't 3,000 kg bombs. It doesn't matter. There are no gloves to take off necessarily, unless you're talking about horrific war crimes or just like destroying all energy capabilities in the country and stuff. But I will remind you guys that the Russian goal in Ukraine is not the same as the Western goal in the Middle East. They're not going in and destroying the place and then rebuilding the whole place just for it to fail, right? That's not what the Russians want to do. It might be what they end up needing to do, like they have to do it. But the goal was not originally destroy Ukraine. If they wanted to destroy Ukraine, they would have hit all of the power, all of the bridges, taken out as many leaders as they could instantly, decapitation, everything, just like the United States or Israel or any other country that we've seen go to war anytime recently would do. But yeah, no, there is no real gloves to come off. I don't think. I don't really see a reason to escalate in any sort of dramatic manner when you're winning, right? Why change the calculus? Why change the equation while you're winning? It doesn't make sense. If it isn't broke, don't fix it. The Russians are sustaining their fighting capabilities. They have sustainable losses currently. They are improving on the battlefield where they want to improve, and the Ukrainians are expending themselves in an area where they don't need to expend themselves. I don't see why change anything. It's working. And I know a lot of the propaganda right now is, oh, the Kursk operation, this, that, the other. Just wait, guys. Just wait. Just like every other Ukrainian operation since day one, outside of maybe Kharkov, but even Kharkov was so costly, right? Kharkov was great up until like Izum. Izum was fantastic. It was the greatest achievement I think the Ukrainians have accomplished through any of their offensive operations. But once they got past the Oskol and started pushing towards Kremenna, they got worked over. They got worked over and they got stalled at Liman. And then it ended up being this whole reset for the Ukrainian army where they expended themselves so much. And then they had to rebuild themselves for another year in through Bakhmut and into the counteroffensive. So, yeah, there's just a lot going on right now. Will Vuhledar finally fall after several failed attempts? I think so. If you go and look at the map right now, the Russians have advanced across the 0532 down here and are on approach to Vadian. Vadian is obviously the major like staging and logistics area for Vuhledar. The road is also cut, so logistics is now forced to come through back roads. Which is still possible. The roads are still dry and everything. But Vuhledar is going to be in a much, much worse situation come fall if it's not already captured, because once the ground turns into mud, getting through these fields and logistically supplying Vuhledar is going to be very difficult, especially if the Russians are in Vadian and in the coal mine. So yeah, I'm expecting this bottom area to fall very, very soon. And then this is the linchpin of this entire area. So once this falls, the Russians should be able to branch out and flower out from this area. All right, if you guys have some questions, go ahead and get some questions in. I'm going to go over a few articles here. Let's see. Yeah, we'll do this one first. Okay. Look here on me. So this is from the Kiev Independent. Ukraine to resume scheduled blackouts after 3-week break, says state grid operator. Okay, scheduled blackouts will resume across Ukraine on August 19th for the first time in 3 weeks. The state grid operator Ukrenegro announced on August 18th. The renewed blackouts are due to increased electrical consumption amid hot weather. Ukrenegro said on its Telegram channel that power cuts were reported on July 29th. So power cuts are coming back. Obviously, energy expenditure is going to go up, and it only goes up as we get into the winter when you start needing to heat your house. And if the Russians now continue with their electrical infrastructure strikes, it's just going to get worse. We talked about this. The Ukrainians do not have a means to repair it. So yeah, it's just going to be a nightmare. They're going to have a very, very difficult time dealing with this energy issue. And this is the one thing where somebody says, are they going to take the gloves off? If they take out the power like completely, then that I would think that is pretty much the one thing that the Russians could do to really like take the gloves off. Okay. Okay. Question, my dear Gaydon, why do you skip leg day? Have you seen my legs? Dude, have you seen my legs? My legs are like my best feature. They're my most mature muscle group. Are you joking? Man, dude, at least know what you're talking about if you're going to come at me with some trash talk. Come on. My legs are golden, dude. My legs are my prized possession. I've heard some people say that the number of glide bomb strikes in Donbass have decreased due to planes being redirected to Kursk. Is that true? No, that's not true according to Ukrainian units on the front line. They've said New York, Toretsk, and Pokrovsk have not seen any reduction in glide bomb strikes. Nope. The Russians have a lot of planes, guys. They have a lot of planes in Crimea. They have a lot of planes in Russia. They have a lot of planes in the SMO zone. They are not hurting for aircraft to drop glide bombs. So there are plenty of pilots, plenty of aircraft to run sorties. You guys are dumb. You guys are so dumb. Ukrenegro is the name of the electrical company. Please don't show no man legs. No, this is not a flexing stream. This is not my OnlyFans page. If you guys want my OnlyFans, link in the description. Go check it out. Any updates on the situation between Hezbollah and Israel? No, it's still just this waiting for Iran to do something or waiting for Hezbollah to do something. I think it's making U.S. intelligence look fucking stupid. But outside of that, I don't know. I don't even know if anything's going to end up happening. Again, I've said my piece on this. I don't think that the Iranians have anything to really gain from striking Israel right now. Like I said, the Western Bloc is becoming a weaker state. It's going to continue to weaken over the coming decades unless something changes. If it stays on its current path, it's going to continue to weaken. Israel is going to become weaker, and Iran is going to become stronger in the region. So it's, again, thinking decades, guys, not days, right? Do I think David D skips leg day? I don't think David D can walk very well, so I don't know. He's got stilts for legs, so after Toretsk falls, what happens next? Do the troops in that area push forward to somewhere else, or will the Russians pause and redeploy those troops to other sections? No, they're just going to continue on because everything behind the current line, guys, gets weaker and weaker and weaker. So Pokrovsk is going to be weaker. Toretsk is going to be weaker than New York. Konstantinivka is going to be weaker than Toretsk. And, Kramatorsk and Slavyansk are going to be weaker than them. So another question. Are Russians creating a sort of meat grinder on their own land, Kursk, and luring the AFU into the trap? No. I mean, you could say that just because of the way it turned out, but I would be very careful thinking that this is some sort of Russian ploy. I think the Russians had an intel failure. I think the Ukrainians did a fantastic job maintaining OPSEC for this. They did not tell even their high-level brigade commanders. We got stories of brigade commanders being removed literally the day before the operation was set to begin on August 6th or whatever, because they refused to go into combat based on the incompatibility of their manpower to the requirements of the operation. That was the direct quote. They removed one of the brigade commanders the second before they went in and replaced him with somebody who would say yes, a yes man, because the guy said basically, no, I don't have enough guys to do this. The force requirement for this, I'm just sending my brigade in to die. And they said, okay, well, we'll get somebody who will send it in. So no, it's not, I would not say it's a trap. I would say that the AFU did a very good job launching this surprise attack. They took the Russians off guard. I think the Russians knew that they were going to strike somewhere on the border, Belgorod, or Kursk or in the Chernigov region. But the Ukrainians just did a fantastic job staging, got the jump on them, but the Russians are just able to respond. The war is just different now. There's not going to be another Kharkov. It's not going to happen. The Russians have mobile reserves. They have air power. They have deep strike capability. Their ISR is improved. Ukrainian air defense is completely degraded. Guys, there's just not, the mathematics is just not in Ukraine's favor. So no, I do not think it's a trap. I think that AFU did an excellent job staging and getting ready for this operation. Supposedly, Israel's economy is on the brink of collapse. U.S. money is basically keeping it propped. Yep, yep. I mean, Israel doesn't have an economy right now. They're in a massive war. A lot of their men in the country are in the IDF currently. So yeah, their economy is in a very difficult situation. That's what I always say. That's what I'm saying, guys. Iran has just to wait. And this chaos that they're causing by not striking, but keeping Israel in this position where they think they're going to be striked is very, very bad for Israel. It puts them in a very uncomfortable position, I think, for them personally, but it also puts a lot of stress on the domestic situation, on the domestic politics. Iran could force regime change just by waiting it out. And that might benefit Iran, or it might not. Who knows? It's just a toss-up. In the Kursk region, Ukrainian occupiers continue to surrender. Yeah, they. I saw 24 the other day, and then I think I've seen like 19 or 18 or 19 today, new ones. So, you think Russia will push past Kursk, third front, and good PR? Yeah. I mean, eventually, like I said, once the collapse in the east begins, guys, there's not going to be the availability to hold anything in Kursk. You're not going to hold your territory that doesn't even make sense to hold while you're losing very valuable territory in the east. This was a gamble, and it's not going to pay off, obviously, but it did its job. It distracted everybody for 2 weeks. Do you think Ukraine will revolt against the government? No. At this point, no, probably not. I think that there are a lot of the people who are willing to fight have already left. I think everybody who was wanting something else has fled the country. Everybody who is willing to fight for the country has gone to the war, and a lot of them have died or in combat, and the government has an unbelievable amount of control right now. So I do not see a very big chance of some sort of revolt happening, barring Western support completely dropping and the government having no control. This is something very funny too. This is something I was thinking about. International court sentenced Putin because he allegedly took hostages from Ukraine to Russia. Why don't we see the same consequences for Zelensky? Because the international court is a joke, first off. Second off, they literally, what this Kursk operation is starting to look like to me is sort of like an October 7th thing, where the whole win was that they went in and got hostages. That's what it seems like to me. I mean, less terror activity for sure, but still, it's like the same exact premise. Will Russia continue west if they capture Pokrovsk? Yes, sir. They're going to go as far as they need to go, as far as they want to go. They have to get all of the Donetsk Oblast, and if I'll take you guys over to the map real fast. If they get into Pokrovsk, they will basically be. So here's Pokrovsk. They are going to be 10 miles from Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. So this could change the conflict just in terms of what we're talking about. If the Russians can push through Pokrovsk and break into the Dnipropetrovsk, that will mean that they are now have entered a new oblast, and that will make things interesting as well. So we're just going to see how this plays out. But I honestly think most all of this is now going to go to the Russians after the Kursk operation. So it's going to take time. It's not going to be fast, but it's going to happen. Why does Russia always give Ukraine so much ammunition for propaganda? Because they don't give a shit. Because people in Russia don't read Western propaganda. They don't care. They don't care. They're going to win the war. They don't need the PR victory. The PR victories are not anything. They just sustain. They don't actually, propel you forward. So fight for PR for as long as you can. Do it as much as you want. But at the end of the day, it's not really. It doesn't help. The PR wins just don't do much for you. Let's see. Any more questions? How do you decide what territory gets marked green or geolocations for that? Yeah, so I have a system where I wait for multiple confirmations from multiple sources, hopefully with slightly different information. So I'm not getting all of the information from one source and it's just getting spread around. But the map updates have been fairly accurate lately, just consistently, because of the information coming back from the front has just been very reliable recently in terms of Russian advances. So yes, a lot of it is geolocation. Like there was a geolocation in Zvitny here, so I marked it. But some of them are just multiple mass reports, almost to an undeniable position, and sometimes there's mistakes. How much do you think Russia will want to take after the Kursk invasion? Everything. Yep, I just answered that. Yep, everything east. It just makes sense. It's just a good line. Okay. I have one more article that I want to show you guys. And I'm just going to try to do something real fast. Okay. Okay. All right. Sorry, guys. I was looking for something. Here we go. Bump, bump, bump. So this is the last article I have for you guys today. This is from The Hill. The Kursk offensive is Ukraine's Kursk offensive is a huge strategic error. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky has proven himself a master of the political stage, a gifted orator capable of stirring emotions and garnering global support. However, in recent military incursions into Russia marks a departure from the realm of diplomacy and into the territory of strategic blunder. This reckless gambit, more akin to a desperate stunt worthy of a second-rate actor than a seasoned statesman, diverts critical resources from the primary battlefield while offering negligible strategic gain. Holy shit, is that not what I have been saying this entire time? Guys, I could write these articles weeks before they come out. This is ridiculous that this is being talked about after 2 weeks of them, glazing basically what's going on. Not the Hill, but Western media. While the incursion has captured headlines and inflicted some measure of psychological damage on Russia, really, not really. They went through World War II and Chechnya. I'm pretty sure they're okay. Such superficial victories do little to alter the fundamental dynamics of the conflict. Russia, despite its setbacks, remains a formidable military power with a vast arsenal and a nuclear deterrent. Ukraine, while demonstrating courage and resilience, faces a daunting challenge in overcoming this overwhelming disparity. So, exactly what I've been saying the whole time. Same shit, different day. But there you go. Now you hear it from somebody else. Maybe it makes it sound more right coming from me. How many hostages? Probably about 400. What if Russia escalates? They still have to formally declare war. A lot of people think they are depleted on resources and can't escalate. Well, that's not true. That's not true. The Russians are just fighting at a normal speed that they can sustain and maintain forever. That's the goal. Ukraine is fighting at a speed that they can't sustain and maintain. They're burning the candles at both ends. The Russians aren't. That's just the difference. And the Russians have the resources and manpower pool to do that. The Ukrainians do not. That's why we went from symmetrical warfare to asymmetrical warfare. And the Ukrainians still took asymmetrical losses. You should add oblast border highlights to your map. Ugh, maybe. It just kind of makes the map cluttered. Scotty, how likely is it that Putin will cook and sue for peace after taking over the Donbass? No, why? That they have to take over the 4 regions. That's what he's already said. That's the bare minimum. So he's not going to do that. Ukraine took more land in a week than RU took in a year. Stop the cope. Yeah, but if you want to go look at the territory being captured, we can go do that. If you want to, like, it's really not like a hard thing to go do for yourself. See, these are cities that are being captured with defense lines and Ukrainian garrisons, right? So these are important areas that are vital to the Ukrainian defense structure. Okay? Do you understand? Got it? Look at me. Pay attention. Look. Important. Pokrovsk is important. New York, Toretsk, important. Chasiv Yar, important. Here we go. Let's go up here. Tell me what's important here. Can somebody tell me? Outside of Russia being embarrassed, can somebody tell me what's important here? There's a nuclear power plant 40 kilometers away from where the Ukrainians are at. The biggest city in this region is not even the size of New York. Like, this is multiple towns right here, not even close to the size of New York that was just captured. Right? Let's go down to New York, and you can look at it again just for a size comparison. Look how much more densely populated this is. Look how much more territory they're taking. This is nothing. This is nothing. It achieves nothing. It's forest. Look, empty. Little villages, few houses, empty. Forest, empty, nothing, no strategic value, no roads, no nothing. They just pushed into the Ardennes, dude. That's all they did. Congratulations. I just don't. You say stop coping, but you're literally you've been coping for 2 weeks that this is working while watching Ukrainians get slaughtered. Doesn't make any sense, man. But they have it? Yes, they have it. Congratulations, you control pointless territory that's costing resources. Yeah, Ukraine has it. GG. Doesn't make you guys are just ugh sometimes. Calibrated. Is it possible Russia is still holding back? My point is, do they have a secret strategy, or is it just war of attrition more than anything else? What secret strategy? I mean, they can employ different tactics, but no, the strategy is win, right? That's the only strategy needed. We will see, won't we? Yes, we will. Yes, we will. And let me just go back and remind you. How did the Battle of Bakhmut go? Because I predicted that one was going to go in Russia's favor. Did it end up going in Russia's favor? Yeah. I also said that the Battle of Bakhmut was going to degrade the capabilities of the counteroffensive in the summer. How did the counteroffensive go? Remind me, because I said it was not going to do very well. Maybe reach Tokmak. Didn't even happen, right? I gave the Ukrainians more credit than they were actually deserved, right? How did the Battle of Avdiivka go? Because I predicted that one right as well. Correct? How did the Kharkov incursion go? It was just a border incursion, right? It drew a bunch of Ukrainian forces away from Avdiivka and other areas, and then the Russians advanced more on Pokrovsk. Called that one as well. How has Sumy gone after 2 weeks? Exactly as I fucking said it would go, right? So stay mad, boys. Stay mad. I just like to trigger you simps. Yeah, okay. Says the guy literally crying in a live stream that he doesn't even enjoy watching. Come on, bruh. Come on, bruh. We're all laughing at you. All right. All right, guys. I'm going to wrap it up there. That's all I got for today. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Thank you guys for your donations and your questions. Be sure to go check out the latest episode of Demonetized on Patreon. You guys can watch those episodes free. Just join as a free member. And then if you want to support my work, I more than appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for everything you do. I will probably be on here tomorrow with how the updates have been coming. I think I'm going to have to start doing daily live streams just because it's going to start snowballing very, very quick. So be on the lookout for videos constantly, live streams constantly. I'll be on Spaces on Twitter and stuff like that. Be safe, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Happy Sunday. Happy Sunday to you and yours. Be safe. Take care. I love you all. Goodbye.